A very warm good afternoon to everyone. I'm Dr. Suman Pandey Mahadevan from Department of Physical Education, Savitribai Phule Pune University. I first would like to place my heartfelt thanks to the management and organizing committee for providing me this platform to share my views about one of those very important topics called physical literacy with all of you. This COVID has brought us to this digital platform, so it has become, very easy to stay connected with the people worldwide. You don't have to practically travel. But yes, there are certain shortcomings like that personal one-to-one interaction is missing. But I'm very sure your sir has planned something. He has told me that we can have a doubt sharing or maybe some clarification if it is required session later on after this audio or video session. So to begin with, I was first would like to take all of you to my screen. So give me a moment before I share the screen with all of you. Here we are. I don't know how many of you have heard this word physical literacy. We all have heard about literacy and we try to relate the term literacy with the education. People, those who know how to read, how to write, right? We call them literate people. But have you heard about the term physical literacy? Even if you have heard about it, do you really know what it is? And why it is so important that everyone is talking about it? If I name few celebrity sportsmen, those who are actually working in the field of physical literacy, the one name which comes to my mind is Sir Pulela Gopichand, who is our ace badminton player and now coach of our very star players of our country. He's really working for this because he has realized now how important it is. We as a professionals from the fraternity of physical education and sports, we should know about these concepts because they are the building blocks for the profession of physical education. So to begin this topic, physical literacy, I have given a caption here called Born to Move. The first thing a person starts when he take a form of life is moving. I mean, even before he comes out in the world, when he is in the womb of his mother, the first thing he does, he moves. During the end of second trimester, a pregnant lady can actually feel the movements of the fetus. Right? So movement is something which is so indispensable in a life that you cannot think a life without movement. So we are born to move. And those who are not moving enough, you can see they are having some health problems. So we are born to move and we have to move because our body is a machine, right? And it works on a very simple principle. If you don't use it, you are going to lose it, right? So we are going further. How to educate the people about physical aspect of the life, about the movements, right? Movement science, why it is important to do certain things in a correct manner. So just talking about some concept about physical literacy, we will take this session ahead. Going to the next slide. What is physical literacy? As I was saying, many of you must have heard about physical literacy. What it is exactly? Physical literacy is the ability to move with competency and confidence in a wide variety of physical activities in multiple environments that benefit the healthy development of your whole person. If we look at this definition, there are certain keywords. First is it is the ability to move, means it is something which helps a human body to move. Like I'm talking about human physical literacy only here. And then another two words with competence and confidence. Competence, if I want to simplify this term, is like skills. If you know the skill of the movements, it gives you a confidence. A very simple example, if you're not a basketball player and if someone says, come on, let's have a basketball match. So you will not be confident because you don't know how to throw the ball or how to put that ball into that basket. But if you are a basketball person and somebody says, okay, let's have a basketball match, your confidence level will be very different. So when you have the competency, that gives you the confidence. So a physical literacy is a way by which we develop the competencies in the people, which give them the confidence to move and perform certain movements. and that we will come to know in the later slide which movement I'm talking about, in a wide variety of physical activities, because we are teaching them all this in a very variety of activity. We are giving them very, an experience which is rich in variety. For example, like if I have to teach a student regarding maybe throwing or catching, it's just not like one way. Okay, I have this cricket ball, I'm throwing and you catch it. We have to give them different setups, right? Maybe the size of the ball could be different. The type of ball can be different. The environment can be different. The force, the velocity, all this can be modified and try and give them as much variety of activities as possible, right? Because if they have experienced the same skill in a different set of environments, so whenever there is a need in their life, they're always prepared to perform that skill. So the next term which comes here is multiple environments. We teach them the same skill in the different environments that benefit the healthy development of the whole person. The next keyword is here is the whole person. I mean, we are talking about the holistic development. Tell me, everybody go through the physical education classes in their school curriculum, right? How many of them become sportsmen, or those who go on and play competitive, sports? Very few, not even 1%. So should we just train those 1%, those who have potential for sports excellence or something? Like we can see the player and we say he can do really well in the sport. So let my all concentration be on this particular player or person whom I can train and make a national level athlete or international level athlete. Fine. What about the other 99% people, those who are there? It is our responsibility that if there are certain players, number of players, those who can be excellent in the sports, but at the same time there are certain big chunk of students, those who also need to be learned about the basic skills. Even if I am an engineer, I need to walk, I need to catch sometimes in my life, I need to jump in my life. So I need to learn those ABCs. If you see our education system, there are certain subjects which are compulsory till a certain level of education. For example, mathematics. I mean, I'm very sure, like me, I'm not a mathematician, a person mathematics. I do not like maths much, especially in my school days. So if I think now that why did I learn that algebra? Why did I learn that? I'm not using it now. But at the same time, if I say I learned that Pythagoras theorem then as a maths, I'm using that to mark my grounds. So there are certain skills. Even if I'm not become a scientist, I don't opt for a profession which is based on science like engineering or medical. But still, certain part of science I need to learn to have a normal life. Same way, even if I don't want to become a sportsman, there are certain skills which I need to learn to have a healthy and a good quality of life. So those skills or learning or teaching of those skills is called physical literacy. So going further, if you see the next slide, I have given certain components of physical literacy, right? First component is movement competencies. We have to give them the ability to perform each basic fundamental skill in a right way. I mean, how many of you can tell me that you have teach students or somebody has taught you how to walk? Today, if you talk to the people, those who are involved in physical activities and doing their regular physical activity every day, most of them opt for walking because that is the safest physical activity anybody can do for maintaining their health. But at the same time, how many of them have learned how to walk? And if you ask them, they will be puzzled. Do I have to learn that? Yes, you have to learn that because even a slightest incorrect way of walking can cause so much damage to your posture, to your back, to your spine. Nobody has thought about it, right? So you need to know about those basic nuances of these fundamental skills. So movement competencies comes that you learn the skills how to perform those basic fundamental movements. And these movements we will talk about in the coming slides. Second comes rules, tactics, and strategies of a movement. There are three things I'm talking about. Rules. Every movement have certain described rules that this particular thing needs to be done in this particular manner. Then tactics. I mean, as I said, we give different type of environment experience. So based on the environment and situation, your tactics are different. Like catching. If I want to give an example, there are certain rules of catching. Like when you try to catch something, you, because that thing comes in a dynamic way with certain force. So even after, once your hand contact that particular ball, you take your hands back like this to minimize the chances of impact injuries, right? You just follow that movement and give a follow through to your catching skill. That is the rule, because that save your important joints from getting injured. Then you decide the tactics. Okay, if the ball comes like this, I have to run in that direction, or I have to go back, I have to take a top catch, or I have to take a catch here. Or sometime if I can see that object which is coming towards me, it's beyond my capacity, it's very heavy or something like that, then I don't even try to attempt that catch. I rather save myself and drop that particular object. Right? So there are, based on different situations and experiences, your tactics, your strategies about that particular movement needs to be changed. When I'm walking on a plain road, it's different. When you're walking on a slippery area, it's totally different, because you are working on maintaining balance as well. When I'm walking on a slope, it's different. When I'm walking on a high, it's very different. So for these kind of movements, you have to have certain rules, tactics, and strategy. That is again a part of physical literacy. Motivation and behavioral skills of movement. We say that the habit we developed in the childhood stays with us during our older age. If we don't teach our children how to move and why it is important to move, they will definitely going to adopt a sedentary lifestyle later on in their lives. Anyways, we are bound with so much of gadgets, screens, and everything. Already the activity has become very less. And even if we don't give them this thing as a habit in their childhood, they are going to avoid any sort of physical activity, because these movements, this physical literacy is the basis of physical activities. So once if I know I'm not confident about how to walk or run, I will always avoid doing that. So once you are taking these physical literacy classes, or you are trying to make them physically literate, motivation is another thing which is a very, very important component. You have to motivate them to move. You have to bring those behavioral changes in their skills, right? So that it becomes a very normal way for them to behave. Like I don't have to consciously think, am I walking right? Am I catching right? It becomes a part of my behavior. That is what physical literacy is about. Last component, if we look at it, it is personal and social attributes of movement. When we talk about physical literacy, it is very, very individualized. Something, one size fits all doesn't fit here. We have to make programs which is very, very specific to the individual needs. So these are the four main components of the physical literacy. Going to the next slide. There are different skills which you learn throughout your life, and each skill has some literacy models. For example, when you had started learning, reading and writing, you started with alphabets. Then it was like two-letter words, A and an, then ITH, and then you started with three-letter words, FA and fan, MA and man, BIT bit, SIT sit, like that. And then you started framing short sentences, Rohan sit, Mala go, and then slowly, slowly you build up on that and you started doing things. And this is how you have learned the language, right? If I talk about numeracy, right from the beginning, nobody was talking about like how to do multiply or how to do fractions, how to do the calculation. You started with learning numbers, 1, 2, 3. Then you started with double digit numbers. Then you started with, uh, you know, thousands. Then you started with some abacus. This is one, place values, face values, and then slowly, slowly you went towards the advanced mathematical operations. Even for music, which we consider as an extracurricular activity. First, you learn the basic scales, right? Do, re, mi, or we call it in Hindi, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. Then scales, like whether you want to B minor or C sharp, and then scores. I'm not a music person, but I've heard a little bit about it. So every skill have certain literacy models. So is physical literacy. It also has a certain model. If I want to be a swimmer in later in my life, I need to have some basic skills developed at a right age, which will help them to help me to achieve my dream of becoming a swimmer. So those models, basic physical literacy models are there, which needs to be followed in regular physical education classes so that we can actually cover the masses in the class. So that's the physical literacy model contains movement vocabulary. So vocabulary, you all must have heard that how many words you know, you learn something and it get registered in your brain. Today, if I teach you there is a word called indispensable, and it means it is very, very important, you just can't do without it. So today you learn this word and it get fits into your vocabulary. So anytime if this word is used, you know what it is saved here. Same way, there is a movement vocabulary, there in our brain. When I teach you to do certain movements, it get registered here. I give you a very simple example about it. I don't know how many of you drive, right? So the initially, just remember when you started driving, when you were new into the driving, whenever there was like gear changing movements, you used to plan it. If there is a hump or there is a speed breaker, I need to change the gear. So you used to plan, and consciously you need to change the gear. I have to press my leg on the clutch. I need to pull the gear lever, and I have to go to the next gear. And then again, I have to come back to the previous gear. And all that was a very conscious process. But you must have realized when you start keep driving for 3-4 months, 5 months, 6 months, when you become a pro. Now when I'm driving a car, I don't even remember when I'm changing the gears. I'm on my, sometimes I'm listening to the song, sometimes something else is going in my mind, but unconsciously, I'm able to do those changes in there because that is registered here. So every time if I'm performing that particular thing, that vocabulary get activated. Same thing happened with the movement vocabulary. If in a childhood, if we teach them how to do these particular movements correctly, it get registered here. So when they grow up or throughout their life, whenever they are doing that particular skill, they do it in the same manner. So that is how it helps. Then sequences. When I'm performing a particular movement, we have to divide that movement into small steps. And then we have to decide on the sequence of those steps. So that also needs to be registered here. Like for example, if I'm going to do a throw or a catch or a kick, I need to take a stance first. Then I have to prepare my body to perform that movement. And then I have to actually perform that particular movement, which is again followed by a proper follow through. So there is a sequence, right? That sequence also need to be taught. And third come task. To practice these things, we give tasks to the people. You do this, you will be doing 10 kicks, or you will be you play the catch. Each person need to, catch 10 times or something like that. Those tasks needs to be given to develop this movement vocabulary and sequences. So like this, we have this literacy models. So like any other subject or area, even physical literacy has a model which needs to be followed. Going to the next slide. Now, how we build this physical literacy? There is a process for it. We have to build this physical literacy. There is a process for it. So we first start with movement vocabulary. What is movement vocabulary? An individual's repertoire of movement skills. When we perform a skill again and again, right, with many repetitions, we master that skill, right? And we learn the sequence, how to perform that particular, as I said, we have to divide the big skill into small parts, and what to do when. So that sequence also get registered. So when we teach them the movements, so we have to ask them to repeat those movements. We have to make correction and ask them to do the corrected way of that particular movement. And then once you learn that skill, you have to repeat that movement again and again, so that it get registered and you master over that movement. So that gets added to your movement vocabulary. Once your movement vocabulary is ready, we go to the fluency. Fluency is like smoothness, the ability to execute a component of movement vocabulary with expertise. If you pick up a child, okay, you ask him to hit a ball with a bat. You throw a ball, he's a 5-6-year-old boy. You throw a ball and you ask him to hit it with a bat. His first hit would be very, very different than when he hit the same ball at the 25th time. Because as many repetition he does, he becomes expert, right? His expertise improves for performing that skill. So what happens when you use that movement vocabulary or whatever movements are there, and when you practice this repeatedly, you get fluency in it. As I just gave the example of that car driving, you become so fluent with the car driving that you don't have to be conscious about what you are doing. It happens automatically. So that is fluency, when you execute that movements or movement vocabulary with expertise, without making like a pro. Then third steps comes in the process of building physical literacy is physical proficiency, right? Kind of an expert, master. The ability to select and proficiently execute movement vocabulary suitable to an environment or setting. Just think about it. What happened? Uh, if I give an example, there's a batsman. Hmm? He doesn't hit all the balls in the same way. He decides what kind of a ball is approaching, and then he plans and execute. Sometimes he hits the ball for a straight drive. Sometimes he last moment he change and he go for a reverse sweep. Sometimes maybe if it comes a little up, people like MS Dhoni, they hit go for helicopter shots. It means the same skill you are performing with a different way based on the environment and situation. So if you will get this physical proficiency when you have an ability to analyze the situation and whatever vocabulary is here, and you are able to select which is the right movement in this particular time. As I said, when I'm walking on a normal floor, it's different. I may go when I have to walk simply on a road, I may go like normal walking without being very conscious. But if there is a water, it's slippery, then I started pressing my legs down on the ground because I need to have some grip so that I can maintain my balance. So based on this environment or the situation, which movement vocabulary you can execute with expertise is called physical proficiency. Next, in the process of building physical literacy comes physical literacy itself. Physical literacy is the ability to demonstrate physical proficiency in multiple environments. Now, once you are an expert, whatever happens, you are able to perform that movement with full confidence and competency. And now we can call that you are a physically literate person. So this is the process of building physical literacy. Although it just 4 steps, but it requires a lot of work, right? Going to the next slide. A little continuation with the process of building physical literacy. We have to keep certain things in our mind, which is very, very important when we are building the physical literacy programs, when we are trying to develop the physical literacy in the student. We have to keep these 5 components in our mind. Number 1 is it has to be individualized. No two people are same in this world. Even the twins have some difference. As individual, they are very different people. So same happens with every child, every person. So when we are making a physical literacy program, it has to be very individualized according to that particular person for whom you are designing that program. It's just not that, as I said, one size fits all. It doesn't work like that. Second comes builds on basic movement vocabulary. As I said, you cannot just teach directly 3-letter words or sentences to the students. You have to start from the basic. You have to teach them A, B, C. And in fact, if you have small kids at home, I remember my time, we were taught these alphabets in a very different way. Like we started with A and we ended up with Z, right? Or Z. They used to give us the dots and we need to trace that dots and make a and Z. Now, if you see, the teaching has changed. They teach it, there is no sequence like A to Z. They first teach them standing line and sleeping line. After that, they teach them the alphabets, which are which can be written using these 2 lines. For example, H, T, I, L, like that. And then they teach them slanting line, and then teach them alphabets which can be made using slanting lines like A, V, W, M. And then they go for curve lines and they teach them like C, D, B. So it's very different because you need to teach them basic first, then only they can build on it. So same way physical literacy के लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि we should start with the basic fundamental movements. So we have 2 types of fundamental movements. There are certain gross motor skills which use our large body muscles, for example, walking, running, kicking, galloping. All this includes a large group of muscles. They are called gross motor skills. And there are certain fine motor skills, which requires precision and which you perform with the use of small muscles. For example, writing, or putting a thread in a needle. So they have fine motor skills. So fundamental skills can be of two types, divided into two things. There are gross motor skills, and then there are fine motor skills. After the movement vocabulary, we have to build confidence and competences. As I said, you have to first build competences. Yes, you learn these skills, and once you learn the skill, that confidence automatically develops. Then comes, give them the variety of activities. We as a human being, we love variety. Everything, any similar thing, if we just keep giving every day, it becomes very monotonous. And they lose interest in it. And we are dealing with the kids. We need to keep their interest alive, otherwise they won't do it. So it's very important that we give them variety of activities. Simple, for teaching one skill, you should plan and give them different experiences of the same skill. And last, you have to focus on the whole person. We are not talking about just hand, arms, legs, or maybe the body parts or something like that. We are working on that particular individual. We have to focus on that whole person. As I said, the first point, individualized. So this is how the process of physical literacy builds. So first we have to teach them the skills so that they become competent to move. I mean, they know how to do that movement. If I teach them how to throw, so they learn, now they can throw. Then once they learn, their confidence improves. They are confident to move. And once that confidence develops, then they are motivated to move. They want to move. They like, because there is a sense of achievement, there is a sense of confidence. So this is how physical literacy goes. So we have to first start with teaching them the skills so that their competency improves automatically, which will lead to the improvement in their confidence. And once the confidence is there, skill is there, definitely they are motivated to be active in their life. If I give you this timeline in the sense like our life span, you will realize in this particular slide that physical activity, whether it is structured or unstructured, it has been the part of our lifespan. During our life, we are exposed to different forms of physical activities in a different way. Like if I said cradle, when you are born, unconsciously that baby kicks all the time. Sometimes he moves his hand. So, this is physical activity. He's doing that. As I said, they started moving in the womb of their mother. Like then in the family, when the child grow up, family members help them to move, hold my hand, move, now come on, jump, sit, up. Then they go out, play with their friends, and then they learn 10 things. So then family and community teach them physical activities. After that, when they go to play groups, nurseries, or these kindergarten schools, there are certain skill which is being taught to them, early childhood education. Then they go to schools where the health is the main area, and health promoting schools where they have PE classes, health and education classes, and they learn about physical activities, they play certain games and they enjoy it, right? Then they some of them, they start playing sports, maybe as a competitive sports, as a career, and some of them play as a recreational part, and some of them play as a leisure time activity. So again, you are exposed to physical activity. Then recreation, like I become old, maybe if you see elderly people, they go for walk, they go in a group. Sometimes they have recreational center where you can see these old people playing different games. So that again, give them that physical activity experience, and then proper physical education classes. So different span in our lifespan, during different stages, we are part of physical activity, or I can say physical activity is a part of our skill. Only thing we have to realize, so when something is so important, which is there with you throughout the life, don't you think you need to learn it, at least learn the basics of this? So it is very important that we literate people about the physical movements. Going to the next slide. Now, why physical literacy is important? Only few percent of children and youth are meeting the new physical activity guidelines of at least 60 minutes of, mild to vigorous physical activity per day. MVPA is mild to vigorous physical activity per day. This is what. Recently, even during this COVID time, the WHO has given that children to 18, up to 18 years old should do some, I mean, I would say maybe 10, from 10 years to 18 years of age, they must be engaged in 60 minutes of mild to moderate to vigorous physical activity every day throughout the week. It is very, very important because it has its own benefits. I'm not here to talk about that, but yes. And people 18 to 64 years, they are supposed to be active or doing something physical activity at least 75 minutes in a day, which goes for 1 hour and quarter of it. Are we meeting that? No. You look at the examples around you. You look at yourself. You look at in your houses, in your neighborhoods. Hardly there are students, forget about 60 minutes. They're not even active for 30 minutes. And thanks to this COVID, everything has come to the screens now. They have schools starting in the morning up to the afternoon, sitting on the chairs in front of the screen. After that, they want some break. They go and watch TV again in the screen because we are stay in small houses or whatever, flat system, whatever. I mean, there are a lot of limitations in due to this lockdown and corona. So it has not meeting even the 50%. If they are physically literate, so they, you know, this environment, it's an environment change. Earlier you used to play outside, and due to lockdown the environment has changed. But physical, if you are physically literate person, you can find the different n number of ways to be physically active, even in those 1,000 or 1,500 square feet area. So that is why physical activity, physical literacy is important. The prevalence of obesity, I'm giving you this global data. The prevalence of obesity has doubled in last 25 years. You can see that 1 in 3 children is overweight or obese. If you just pick up 3 children randomly, if you check their fat percentage, 1 out of those 3 is obese or overweight. This is the scenario nowadays. Between 1978 to 2004, the combined prevalence of overweight and obesity among children 2 to 17 years doubled from 15% to 26%. So these are some facts, some data which supports that physical, this is a high time that we need to focus on physical literacy. Okay, so going further, it has been observed that people, those who are physically active, those who meet these guidelines, those who remain active throughout the day, they have positive effect on their academic achievement. There are many researches which have been conducted which shows that people whose activity level is higher, they also score good in academic activities, like in their academic grades, their schools and all that. Lower rates of, if you play, the rate of anxiety, depression, that is also very low nowadays. I mean, this stress, this anxiety, this depression has hit our kids. No, but I mean, I remember my childhood, I didn't even know what the stress is till I reached the 10th standard, when everybody started, you know, giving me that stress that you are in board, you have to give exams. So that time it came to me, but otherwise it was not a part of my life. But nowadays, if you see, pressure is so much. Small kids are having, you know, stress, psychological issues like depression, anxiety, nervousness. So if they are playing sports, or if they are part of physical activity, you will, that it works, and it has been proven effect that it lowers their level of depression and anxiety. So it is very, very important. It lowers definitely, because if you're active, you can maintain your healthy body weight. So the rate of obesity is less, rate of heart disease is less, stress and other disease. You definitely minimize the risk of all these non-communicable disease. So that is why physical literacy or physical activity is very, very important. Some more data, like nowadays, if you see, it's a 2012 report that kids spend 63% of their free time being sedentary. I'm talking about the free time. I mean, not their school time, not the time they spend in sleeping or eating or, you know, the basic daily course. But whatever leisure time they get, hardly they are using fruitfully being physically active. So 63% of their total free time, they are sedentary. I mean, not even 50% they are using to be physically active, which is so bad. I mean, it's not good. Kids in grade 6 to 12 are spending 7 hours and 48 minutes per day in front of screen. And this I'm talking about when COVID was not there. Nowadays, if you talk or if you check the data, It is more than 80% of their active time they're spending in front of the screens. And not only them, even us, people like us, like even, because now this is the only platform that we can reach to the people. So it's very important that we need to make sure that we if we it's an emergency situation, we have no other medium, this is the only medium with us where we can connect and continue our life and our education. But then at the same time, we need to take certain precautions, like obviously the guidelines are there. So if once you're physically literate, you understand the importance of physical activity. So even in the times like this, you make sure that you somewhere try to complete that recommended level of physical activity. The proportion of students who get the recommended 150 minutes of PE per week ranges from 15 to 65% across school grades. I mean, this is another very sad part. It has not been taken very seriously. I also remember I have worked in a school in the initial years of my career. I remember most of the classes, fifth onward, they had just one PE period in a week. Which, I mean, can you imagine? Out of all those 5 days they used to work, they had just half an hour to play. So they always used to, wait for those PE classes. So it's very important that we give a sufficient amount of time in a timetable. And if we are giving the time for PE, then we as a physical education professionals have to be very, very sure that we are giving them something very, very structured and constructive way where they can all be physically active, right? So these are the reasons why physical literacy is important. If you see, there is a pyramid. If I talk about the physical activity or maybe physical literacy, initially most of the people, they play for recreational activity. Then some people, they, because they travel or they to go for tour, they do those activity. And the moment you go up, you will see the number of people participating in physical activities become very less, right? और उसमें से काफी लोग ऐसे, many group of people are there, those who've been keeping aside from this. For example, the people with disabilities, right? Differently abled people those who have below like there are people who are not very good in physical activities, so they are being keeping aside, and they after a certain point they lose interest, and they start playing some other, sitting in a ground playing some different game, but they don't want to be involved in physical activities. Maybe some injured people, some people those who cannot be a part of regular physical activity program. So, or maybe those who are very, very obese, they just can't clinically obese people. So people like these, they are not part of this pyramid. So we can definitely do better than this, where we can have some inclusive form of a shape where we can include all that. And so we need to shift this pyramid to a square like this. If we teach them physical literacy up to the age of 12, should be the focus, right? When we have students in the school up to the age of 12, when I say 12, I mean up to the standard of 5th or 6th, our main focus should be of physical literacy. And after that, we can see how many of them, and we should make sure that majority of the students, those who have been through this physical literacy building process, should opt one or the other sports at least as a recreational part, and out of which few of them can participate in competitive level of sports, and few of them, you never know, become elite athletes. But here we are including everyone, whether they are differently able people, there are people those who are injured, we have some different kind of programs for them, whether they are girls going into the adolescent where they generally move out of the physical activities. So we are catering to the all group of people which were not the part in that triangular form of pyramid. So we need to square this pyramid so that we can include majority of the people into this particular physical literacy program. Going further, physical activity and physical literacy are the same? No. Physical literacy is a very big term. It's a big phenomena, and physical activity is a part of it. Definitely, it's a part of it. So physical literacy is much more than just merely a physical activity. Key points to physical literacy development. When we are trying to develop physical literacy, there are certain points which we need to keep in our mind. First, we need to develop the competencies, fundamental skills. They need to learn to catch, throw, walk, run, gallop, kick. Then only they can opt for football, baseball, swimming, running, walking. We need to teach them basics first so that they can build the advanced skills on them. And these fundamental skills or tactics and strategies related to this, we need to teach them in different sets of environment with the variety of activities, as I spoke earlier also, right? Age at developmentally appropriate activities. It is being said that 0 to 9 is the prime age. Like when a child is born until he becomes 9 years old. That is the golden age where we develop the fundamental motor skills. And if you don't develop these skills in this particular age span, then you lose that time. After that, it is not that effective. So that 0 to 9 year time frame is very, very important to develop these fundamental skills. But I'm not saying that after the age of 9 you should stop working on the physical literacy. Then something else comes. Something else comes. Some different forms of activities. We work on some advanced motor skills, coordination, balance, and all that. You know, so it's very important that when we are planning the activities, it should be age appropriate and development appropriate. First, we have to see which age group we are planning these activities for and what are their developmental levels. And based on that, we need to plan this physical literacy development program. Physical activity at moderate to vigorous intensity. We need to change the intensity of the physical activity. A very good example, if you ask people that what do you do? Are you a physically active person? He say, yes, I am physically active. What you do? He said, I walk every day 30 minutes, 4 rounds of this particular campus. And how long you have been doing this? He said, I'm doing this from past 3-4 years continuously. So I have to tell them, you have to tell them that, you know, we as a human being, we need to challenge our body, because once you continue a same activity with the same intensity for 15 to 20 days regularly, your body adapts that. Then it loses its effect after 15 to 20 days. Then you have to either increase the distance or you have to increase the speed so that your body capacity also improves. So it is very important that we start with moderate intensity, and when there is a scope, we should increase the intensity of these physical activities, you know, so that they can reach their optimum functioning of their body. It is a very golden platform where we can also impart life skills through the physical education and physical activity. I know this because my PhD work was about life skills, and I know how easy it becomes when to teach life skill through the sports and physical activities. And it is very, very correlated. If you see people, those are physically active and physically healthy, they have a good level of life skills. So that is a very good medium, a platform where you can also impart the life skills. You need to promote physical literacy in a positive and supportive environment. It's very important. I mean, the scenario these days is not good. I mean, physical education, physical literacy has not been given the importance which it deserves. It becomes the last option. I remember when I was working in school, as I said in the initial, I'm talking about 15, 16 years back. Whenever there's anything in the school, they used to chuck this physical education classes off. Like for example, there is a Republic Day, they used to say, okay, physical education classes band kar do, usme practice hoga. If there is any annual day coming, close the physical education classes, let them practice. So the children had only one PE period, and even that used to get compromised for these things. So that needs to be stopped. Physical education needs to be given the same importance, same seriousness what that it deserves. Then only we can develop the physical literacy in the students. Otherwise, it's very, very different, very, very difficult. So it's very important that we promote physical literacy in a very positive and supportive environment where the management understand that it is important that we develop this physical literacy in the students or maybe in the people, because you know, as I said, we are very proud that India is a country of young population. We have a majority of population which is in a young age group. We talk like that. But have you ever tried to find out of that young, so-called young population, how many of them meet the standard level of fitness or physical activity? Not many. So there is no point in having a quantity of population like we are 150 crores or something like that. What about the quality of population? I mean, it's very simple nowadays. I mean, everybody these days talk about the physical activity and fitness. And for them, fitness is only about the weight loss. Trust me. For men, it is about building the muscles. And for females, it's about the weight loss. No, it's not that. It is just one aspect. So, because they have this very narrow concept of physical education and fitness. But if we teach them this physical literacy, or we make them physical literate right from the childhood level, then they realize the importance and scope of it. And then they understand the wider aspect of physical education and physical activity or physical literacy. So it is very important that we need to give that positive and supportive environment at various institutions at that initial years of their life, so they develop a positive attitude towards the physical activity. I mean, which is just not the scene in India. I'm sorry to say that. I always remember running was always used as a punishment. You did not cut your hair, okay, go for one round. You did not complete your homework, go and do squats. It was, and since then it has, it has that negative, we have that negative approach towards running. Nobody likes to run. So it's very important that these things, we need to give some positive perspective about these skills right from the beginning. It should not be used as a punishment, so that people, don't want to do this. So it's very important that we change the mindset and bring this positive and supportive environment for physical education and physical literacy. You will see there's a model. There are these components of physical literacy. As I said, comprehension and confidence. Yes, we have to, they need to understand that movement, comprehend that movement, and then only that confidence will improve. Awareness, selection, sequencing, and modification. If you develop that physical literacy, they're aware about these body movements, that environment, that situation. Based on that, they can select that particular skill or variation of that skill. They can, they can plan the sequence in their mind, and then if required, they can modify those skills as well. Sometimes we just don't catch while standing, we dive and catch. Sometimes we jump and catch. We modify those skills based on the situation. So that also develops through the physical literacy. And last, proficiency, diversity, and environments. You become a proficient, you become a pro, and you are diverse. You can use the same skill in a very different situations and scenario with the same expertise. And based on the environment, you have understood that how you can do those particular movement in a different set of environment. So these are the basic key concepts of physical literacy. So what is supportive environment? I spoke so much about supportive environment, what it is, right? So these are some 9 factors which should be there in a learning environment. Then only we can call it a supportive environment for physical literacy. There are 9 principles of education, right? Which should be, which are important for a student to become a physically literate. So it starts with enjoyment. As I said, it should not be used as a punishment. Students should be enjoying this physical activity. Diverse, it should have that variety. You should not give just the same skill again and again. You should have a variety in your programs. Understanding, they should be able to comprehend those movements, understand those movements. Character, it should be used as a character development or maybe a behavioral change. Ability, it definitely improves their ability. As I said, competency. Totality, I said we need to talk about the whole person as a whole. The totality is important. Imagination, we need to give them certain tasks where they are using their brains, that in this particular scenario, how I'm supposed to use this particular skill. So that kind of a opportunity you need to give them in that supportive environment. Ongoing, I mean, it's not something like crash course you do for 3 months and then you can enjoy the fruits throughout your life. As they say, come to us, you lose 10 kgs in 3 months, fine, what's after that? Are you going to continue exercise or not? Because if you're not, then you're going to, I'm very sure you're going to pile up those 10 kgs again. So physical activity is like breathing and eating. It's not the 3 month or 4 months crash course. It is a part of our life. It has to be like ongoing, from cradle to grave. Nurturing, you need to nurture it. Like you teach them basics of subjects, science, math, something. Same way that physical literacy has to be nurturing. A positive attitude of the students, of the teacher, of the management is very important, right? So we are nurturing them. So these are the 9 principles based on which physical literacy program should be designed and implemented. Importance of fundamental skill. Now I'm talking about physical literacy, fundamental skills. If I don't know how to walk properly, what does it going to do? How does it going to affect me? So no, it's very important that you learn your fundamental motor skills well. Why? A child who has not had the opportunity to develop the basic motor skills experiences difficulties or barriers when he participating in short experiences, sport experiences, and in school-based programs that involve more difficult skills. You have not taught me how to kick a stationary ball. I mean, the ball which is, it's not moving, right? It's there, and I have to go and kick. I have not learned that. How will I play with my fellow mates when on a football ground where the ball is moving? I won't be able to develop that confidence. I will find it difficult to stop that ball midway and then kick it again, because I am not able to. All my life I have not kicked even a stationary ball. How would I kick a moving ball? So if you don't teach them these fundamental skills, they will not build that confidence in them, and later on they will avoid participating in any kind of physical activity, and slowly it will, the sedentary lifestyle, they will develop a sedentary lifestyle. So if we develop this fundamental movement skills at the right age, they have these skills which gives them the confidence, and they participate in variety of activities. So no matter, even if they become engineers or doctors, 1 hour in a day they go and play sports, which is more than enough, right? So something like that we need to inculcate. So these are 12, there are 12 fundamental movement skills. Again, I'm repeating, there are 12 fundamental movement skills which are ideally developed between the age of 0 to 9 years. Dodge, how to dodge. Hop, skip, skipping as we say. Log roll, how to do rolling. Stock stand, that is for how that stock is a bird, how it stands on one leg, that is for balancing. Jump, kick, dribble, overarm throw, catch, run, side arm strike, like this, the way you do in baseball. So these are the 12 basic fundamental movement skills. A child should master these skills till he becomes a 9-year-old, and if he does that, he will enjoy the physical activity after those 9 years of age, right? And there are more like chances that he will remain a physical active person throughout his life. This things which I'm giving you, this data is from PHE, Physical and Health Education Canada, because they are the one, those who have worked revolutionary in the field of physical literacy. They were the one, those who have developed their own Canadian model for it. So they are working very much into this, and now slowly other countries and other associations have joined in. So this is a kind of a graph you can see here, where I have given a different colors, and if you see on the top of it, there are age given, and in year 1, year 2 till year 7, and in that year also months have been given, January to December, like 1 to 12. And here you can see on the side we have this activity name like walking, running, balance, and here where he can learn, and we have given like whether in the home or preschool or school, organized sports or community recreation, where. So like that we prepare a model, and then you can actually assess whether your child can walk up to the age of 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, and we have given the color coding also, like for if it is blue zone, it means body is not mature enough for a skill. I mean, I can't expect a 1-year-old to go and kick the ball like a 5-year-old, right? Then yellow is the best time to teach that particular skill. Green is green when he started developing learning that skill, onset of that skill, and yellow is the best time. And red is, suppose even if by that age he has not learned that particular skill, we have to definitely go for some clinical intervention. For example, I just give you one example, walking, right? So if you say up to the age of 6 or 7 months, here if you can see the graph, the body is not mature enough for that skill. Okay. Further, if you see the green zone, that is up to the 1 year and 1 year, maybe 13 months or 14 months, right? By then he started standing, taking few steps, walking few steps, but not that, fine movements are not there. But yellow, that is from the 1 year and 3 months to the completion of the second year, that is a golden chance to teach him walking. And but even after the completion of second year, if he is not able to walk, then you come into the red zone, where you have to talk to the pediatrics or the specialist or movement specialist, and you have to bring a clinical intervention to make him learn how to walk. So like that, for all 12 things we have, the model was given here, and where he could learn, like he can learn the walking at the home, or in the community recreation with the friends, or maybe in a preschool. So this is a graph. You can later on go through it and in a detail. Going further, how to perform the fundamental movement skills. And now this time is not enough where I can actually teach how to run, how to walk, but I have given a link here, and there are a lot of books which is available on the net, even the hard copies about this pedagogy and about the fundamental movement education, if I can say that, where you can see in detail, there are lesson plans, how to teach them these fundamental motor skills, how to divide them into two parts: gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and at the same time how to teach them, and what are the criteria to look for whether they have learned it or not. There there's an assessment system also. So all that you can learn here. So but first you have to understand those small minor things, which is important aspect of these skills. Then only you can teach this to the students. So if I say physical literacy, it has 4 parameters. First is skill, as I said, movement, vocabulary. You need to teach them those skills, and knowledge about those skills, which gives them confidence about the movement that they can do. They can definitely do. And if they are confident, definitely they get the motivation to do that and remain active throughout their life. So this is how this model works. So this is towards the end of my session. I have given a physical literacy wrap up in this link. I'm not playing the link here now, but if you want, I can just show you a glimpse of it, and you can definitely watch this video whenever you have time later on. You can copy this link from this presentation or this video. I have already given this presentation to Sir, so he can share this presentation with all of you, and you can actually go through this video. And there is so much work which is being done, and so much still has to be done in the field of physical literacy. So it's very important that we talk about the mental meditation, yoga. It's very important that we go for now muscular meditation, and people, and there are a few positive things which has happened in the time of COVID-19. And one of the positive thing is that people have now put their health in the priority, which was not there. People have realized the importance of having a good health. And now the concept of health also has changed. It is not limited to weight gain or weight loss. They're talking about the immunity, they're talking about the fitness, they're talking about the heart health, they're talking about the hormones, respiratory health. So it is a good sign that people are at least getting aware about this concept. And so it was my I really feel for this particular thing called physical literacy. So wherever I get an opportunity, I love to talk about this. So that was the reason I chose this topic, and I'm very sure at least some concepts about physical literacy. I'm sure I was able to clear some concepts, and I would request each one of you to actually explore this area. It is wonderful. And it's not that you need to learn only to teach in the schools, but even in your home, with your kids, with your grandkids, with the people around you, you need to learn this. So I will try to open this video, and after that I would like to wrap my session. So Abhi, I think so I cannot go for 2-3 skills at the same time, but you please try and open this. And if by any chance if this video doesn't get open, there are many videos available on the YouTube. You have to just put physical activity or physical literacy activities for the school children, or maybe for the adults, like that. Okay, so many literature, many books, many videos are available thanks to the digital platform. So please go through it, read it, and I would be happy to clear your doubts or answer your questions if it is there. So you feel free, you can share your questions with Sir, and he can pass on that question to me. So we will have some interactive sessions where I can clear your questions. So with this, I would like to wrap my session about the physical literacy. I just want you to remember a few things, that it is high time that we need to work on this. We need to teach them basic fundamental movement, so that when they grow up, they pick up physical activity as one of the essential things in their daily routine. And once they are physically active in their daily life, definitely they are going to become a fit citizen. And the dream which we all are seeing of a fit India, that dream will come true. So with these words, I once again thanks the organizing committee and management committee for providing me this platform. And I just wish good luck to all of you. Stay happy and stay safe. Thank you.